So we've been studying systems of equations. Now we're going to see how matrices are related to them, but we're primarily just going to look at how we translate a system into a matrix, and then we're going to use a calculator to help us solve it. You guys are going to love this because it's going to take us very little time. Okay, but first, just some notational things. A matrix is just a series of numbers. You got rows, you got columns, okay? That's it. So for example, something like this. This is a matrix, okay? And the way you talk about the size is you count how many rows there are. So how many rows does this have? And how many columns are there? Okay? So this is a 2 by 3 matrix. Okay, you got 2 rows, you got 3 columns, pretty easy to remember. Okay, this notation here with the A sub ij, all it means, first number tells you what row you're looking at, second number tells you what column you're looking at. That's what this fancy stuff here means. So over here, if I asked you what was in A21, that refers to what row? So this row, and what column? So what number are we talking about? 1. Does that make sense? Okay, if not, ask, clarify. Did I hear a wait? This is just refers to a specific number that's in the matrix. And this, the I and the J, tell you what row and what column to look at. So second row, first column, well, second row is right here, first column's right here. That's this number, the 1. Okay? If I asked you to do A12, you guys see that that's 3? First row, second column, that's number 3. Okay? Pretty easy, right? Okay. Now, as far as a system is concerned, we'll start with 2 by 2s, okay? There's something called an augmented matrix, okay? And an augmented matrix is really 2 matrices in one. You take the left side of an equation, and that becomes your coefficient matrix, okay? The right side of the equation is what we call the constant matrix. But really all you need to know is that together, on the left side, you put the coefficients, and on the right side, just like the equation is, you put the answers. Okay, and because it's really 2 and 1, we can say it's augmented because you're putting two matrices together.
And the exponents go away.
Yeah, because so here's the thing. When you see something like this, you always interpret that this represents 3x, and that this represents negative 4y, and that this represents the fact that if you add those two together, you get negative 6. Does that make sense? So we lose the x and the y notation, but we know that that's what they represent. Does that make sense? Okay. So now, let's just talk about going straight to row reduced echelon form, which is abbreviated RREF. Okay. So I'll go through these steps with you in a minute, but let's just go through these matrices over here, okay? So here, on the left-hand side, we have how many rows and how many columns? 3 rows, 3 columns. If you add in the A, B, and C column, that's actually a 4th column, right? Now, keeping in mind this notation over here, how this 2 by 2 becomes this augmented matrix. Can you guys translate what this means, this first row? What does the 1 represent? 1x. Exactly. This means 0y plus 0z equals what? In other words, x equals a. You guys see how that works? What does this middle row tell you? 1y equals b. In other words, y is equal to b. What's this last row tell you? That z equals c. Okay? This format right here, this is called row reduced echelon form. you have a 1 in one spot, zeros everywhere else. And then as you go down, you move that 1 over. And so it easily tells you how many, what each variable is because everything else is out of there. Okay? So on the calculator, you know those 3x3s that we've been doing by hand? Okay? We can do them now in about 1/10 of the time if you know how to do this. So first, I'm going to ask you, like on a quiz or a test, if you're able to use a calculator for these, you're going to translate the system that you got right here and write it out as an augmented matrix. So on the left would be what numbers here? 2, 2. Careful, yeah. It's actually 0. You know, I wonder if this is... And then, yeah, this will become 6. Right, because you want x, y, z equal to a number. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so this one's pretty straightforward, though. It's 1, 1, 1, and then equals 1. The bottom row, be careful, it's 3, 4. This z has to get moved over, so it's -1z. 13 is good. Okay? So this is our augmented matrix. And now the calculator will put it in this form. In other words, if we tell it to do reduced row echelon form, it'll write it out in this format for us, and we'll just know the answers, hopefully, by just looking at the matrix. Okay, so here's how you put them in. And again, if you forget ever, all your steps in detail are summarized up here on this page. Okay, but once you kind of know where the menu's at, it's pretty intuitive. Okay, fourth button down on the left, you see in blue how it says matrix, right? So you're going to press second and then press that fourth button down. And then now what you're going to do, if we're looking at this matrix together, how many rows are there? 3. And if we look at all the columns, there are 4 of them. So we're going to go over to edit. You guys may not have this because I've been playing around with this already. But you can edit whichever matrix you want. Just because I don't have anything there yet, I'm going to go to matrix E. You can do A. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And here you would just tell it what the dimensions are. So you guys said there were 3 rows. So I'm going to do 3, hit enter. 4 columns, hit enter again. And then now you're just going to enter exactly what we wrote down here, one by one. Okay? So 2, and if you hit enter, you see it just goes over to the right. So you're going to enter the first row first. So 2, 2, 0, 6. And then 1, 1, 1, 1. 3, 4, -1, and 13. Okay, you guys all got them in there? Tanya, you good back there? Okay. Once you have everything programmed in, just quit. So press second and then mode. Go back to the home screen. And now you're going to go back to the matrix menu. So second, and then matrix. And then now you're going to tell it to do something with that. So you're going to go to math. And if you scroll down, eventually you'll see, I forget which number it is. Option B, you see how it says RREF? That's exactly what we're talking about right now. So we're going to hit enter. And now the calculator is waiting for you to tell it, well, which matrix do you want to put in that form? So now you got to go back to the matrix menu. And then you're going to now tell it which one it is. So I don't know where you put yours. I put mine in E, right? So I'm going to go down to E and hit enter. You guys probably have A, unless you decided to use a different one. And if you hit enter, let's write this down. So here, the reduced row echelon form is 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 0, 1, -2. So what are my solutions here? What's x? Y is 2, and z is -2. So there's our solution. Right.
Is that how you were able to roll?
Uh-huh. That's exactly how I did some of those, yeah. So a lot of those systems that you guys were at, you can easily just check these now with your calculator to see if you're doing them correctly by hand.
So on the test, how?
On the test, you'll have some with this, and then you'll probably have some that say do this, by hand. So you'll have to do both. Yeah, yeah. Make sense? All right. Let's talk about a couple of different things. Okay. Let's start with this one because this one's easy. So this reduced row echelon form matrix basically is everything eliminated and solved for. So your calculator is doing all the elimination for you, getting everything figured out, and that's how we get our answers, okay? Now, you guys know that if you're eliminating, like let's start over here. What does this translate to? Again, keep in mind.
0 equals 4.
Yeah, 0 plus 0 plus 0, 0 equals 4. Well, what do we say if we ever, exactly. So if you see the bottom row looks a little shady or suspicious, right? Because what should this be? It should be 0, 0, 1. If you see all zeros followed by a number, no solution. It doesn't make any sense, okay? On the other hand, look at this case here. What does this say? This says 0 equals 0, and whenever we saw that, we would just say infinitely many solutions, right? And that's all you need to remember. Okay? So just like with substitution or elimination, if your bottom row doesn't make any sense, you say no solution. If your bottom row cancels everything out and you get 0 equals 0, you say infinitely many answers, just like with 2 by 2s. Okay? Why don't you guys do a couple of these? I guess that's really all I need to do as far as notes. So let's just end that.